Good God.
Just asinine. The thing that they make us do, that screenshot that makes it look like whatever the hell we're doing. Oh, the little girl singing the national anthem again. This little girl is really good.
Awesome.
Let me turn this around here. Look at this girl. Can I zoom in?
You can, you can. There it goes. Sort of.
There she is.
Yeah, she's great.
She's great. I don't know if the mic can pick her up, but. All right. John Corrales, Tom Westerholm. Get that thing out of there. Whatever. We're here in a super noisy when we go live Pfizer Forum. So, Game 5, Tom.
Here we go, Rocket!
Win or lose?
All right.
Get right to it.
So,
how many things are going to go on?
we've talked about this a bunch. I mean, it's a very touching rendition of this anthem.
She's really, really good.
I think the Celtics probably lose tonight. I think that's the safest bet. I mean, you're down 3-1. You know, even if you start off well, even if you're playing well into the second quarter, even if you're playing well into the third quarter, there's always going to be sort of this thing hanging over your head where you're like, all right, but even if we win tonight, we have to do this 2 more times against the team, the number 1 team in the East, the team with the league's MVP. I mean, that's a tall task, but you know, we'll see. I could also see them winning tonight. I could see them extending the series. You know, they've certainly got the talent to do it. So, yeah, I guess that would be my prediction. What do you got?
I say they win.
Okay.
I think that it'd be a very Celtics thing for them to win this game tonight. Whenever they've been super high, they fall into a rut. Whenever they get written off, they find a way to come together.
Yeah.
And this is exactly where they've come back and made runs during the course of the regular season, and I think that they can pull it off again tonight. I think Kyrie is like this. We talked about Game 3, we talked about Game 4, and that's the moment that he really wanted. If he can't step up in this moment, like if he can't come through in this moment, down 3-1, season on the line, then, man, I don't want to be around Sports Talk Radio because he's going to get demolished.
I mean, he's going to
get demolished,
yeah.
and rightfully so. He has talked himself up to this point.
Yeah.
He has built up his own personal expectations that I asked for this, I want this, this is where stars step up. This is where he has to step up. He has no choice.
Yeah.
My fear is that what he does is tries too hard to be the guy, and he completely ignores his teammates. And really, when the Celtics are at their best, it's when the ball is popping, the ball is moving. Brad talks about side to side, multiple paint attacks. That's really when this Celtics team is at their best, and they need Tatum to be hitting shots. They need Brown to be hitting shots. They need Horford to be hitting shots. And then Kyrie needs to be selective about where he takes over.
Yeah.
So I think that they can pull this off and send it back to Boston for Game 6. From there, I don't know. Do you guys regret defending Kyrie all year? I mean,
it's not really defending to point out when he plays well.
I'm not.
Whatever.
I think this is where the Kyrie haters are just going to. That's what's going to happen. They're going to come out in droves and they're going to say, "Oh, we were right the whole time." They're not better without Kyrie. Kyrie is their best player on the team. All of that stuff. I don't want to rehash that argument, but like.
Yeah, that's real dull. All right, so I guess the other question that we should probably talk about is if they lose tonight, what does that mean going forward?
If they lose tonight, man, that sets up a real interesting offseason. Let me start by saying I don't think tonight's outcome impacts Kyrie's decision to stay or go. I don't know
that I agree with that, but continue.
I don't think the result of one game one series is going to be like, well, I was going to stay, but we lost in 5 versus. I think he's going to stay because he thinks This is his best chance to win. This is his best chance to enjoy himself playing basketball. and then enhance whatever personal brand that he's trying, continuing to build.
Yeah,
So
I see your point. I guess I would counter by saying I think that it might not, I don't think losing this specific game would be the reason he leaves. I think that losing, I think that losing this series would really you bow out in 5 games. You bow out in the second round. Even with all the Bucks were a 60-win team, Giannis is the league's MVP. Even with all of those qualifiers, I think that can certainly play a role. That's you're bowing out real early. You hoped that this was going to be a championship team. It wasn't. And certainly things can happen in this summer that I think would raise the chances of him re-signing. Obviously, they trade for Anthony Davis. I think he's going to at least sign a 1+1 and stick around for another year. I think that's probably what would happen in that scenario. But I do think that I think that what happens tonight will play a role. I don't think that it's the deciding factor, if that makes sense.
The other thing I think is interesting, Kyrie's decision to stay or go impacts so much about what happens with the Celtics in their offseason. So regardless of what impacts that decision, then what happens with Al Horford, who can opt out?
Nobody's talking about Al Horford because they just assume that he's going to opt in. I mean, listen, the man is guaranteed a lot of money next year, and I get that. But he's also a little bit older, and right now he is the best defender of Joel Embiid. And I know he hasn't necessarily shown it this whole series, but Giannis, probably in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
That is a guy who is very valuable and probably could get a longer-term big deal if he restructured this summer. So, I don't know. I don't think it's out of the question. I don't think that it's for sure that he's going to. His money next year is real good. But nobody's really talking about the fact that nobody knows what Horford is going to do yet. He's been kind of, I don't want to call it cagey because that makes it sound like he's been avoiding the topic, but he hasn't talked about it at all this year, and when he's been asked about it, he hasn't really said anything about it.
My expectations have been that he would opt out and re-sign a 5-year deal with the Celtics.
I think that's on the table for sure.
I think for a guy of Horford's age, and there's a mechanism in the collective bargaining agreement, he's at the exact age now where it doesn't mess with the Celtics cap down the road. I won't get into all the machinations of it all, but he can sign a 5-year deal this offseason, and it wouldn't adversely affect the Celtics at the end of it, other than the risk of paying him big money at the end of the contract. But for security, I think if he feels okay about the Celtics situation, a 5-year, 80, 90, whatever $1 million contract for security and to get him more, if he leaves, he can opt out and leave and get money somewhere else, but not as much as he can get from Boston, and that long-term security is important.
Yeah.
And again, Kyrie staying or going could be important. Yeah. Brad Stevens has a lot of, I don't want to say soul-searching, I can't think of the right term, but this has been a weird season for him, because when Kyrie Irving said earlier this year, Brad Stevens has never coached a guy like me, he really cannot be more correct about that. Everything Brad Stevens has coached, every team, Butler, scrappy underdogs. Every Celtics team, scrappy underdogs. This year, superstar, moody, malcontent, I don't know how you want to classify it, but a guy who has to be allowed to kind of do his own thing, especially when you get the contract situation. So it's been a tough coaching year for Brad Stevens. And I think he's going to have a whole summer to kind of chew on. Now, whether Kyrie comes back or not, Brad Stevens is going to have to coach another superstar at some point in his life, and he's going to have to figure that out. Once you start coaching the guy a certain way, it's hard to change it during the season.
Yeah.
He's going to have to start next year maybe a little differently. I think he and Kyrie have a pretty good relationship. We saw them talking the other day.
Yeah.
And they seem fine. But I think the Brad Stevens summer storyline is going to be super interesting. If they lose this, there's plenty of time to talk about this stuff, but I think those three things are going to be some of the biggest. And then what do you think? If Kyrie leaves, I don't think the Celtics trade for Anthony Davis.
My impression is no. If you talk to the Celtics, the people in the Celtics organization, I think that at least around the trade deadline, they would have said, yeah, of course we still want to have Anthony Davis on the team. But
Yeah.
I mean, a certain amount of that, I think, like you can only trust that to a certain point. I mean, it would be really tough to say, yeah, here's Jason Tatum. You know, that would be tough to do if you didn't feel like you were going to have a dynasty on your hands. So, I think if Kyrie leaves, it's on the table that that we start to talk about them using all of these draft picks they have coming up. That we start to talk about seeing Rob Williams more next season. That we start to talk about all these young guys getting a chance to kind of shine. And I don't think that means they're going to like throw in the towel on trying to be good and try to like rebuild. I think that that's still a playoff team for sure, especially if Gordon comes back stronger next year, which I mean, there's zero reason to believe he won't. Like, I think he's going to be much better next year, and that's still a playoff team. That's still a good basketball team, but it does look a lot different than the team that we talked about all year. Leading up to July 1. So.
I mean, we could talk about this all night, but we still have a Game 5 in front of us.
Yep.
I'm curious to see what adjustments Brad Stevens makes. So I've suggested, we talked about it on the podcast, I wrote about it on Mass Live, that they start Gordon Hayward. The quick summary is that Gordon Hayward allows Kyrie to be off ball more. It gets Gordon more touches, which both things will really, really help both of those guys. And it really helps the bench. I'd say Jaylen Brown goes to the bench because you need to have that kind of player. Like, he's been playing awesome. And some of the pushback I've gotten from this suggestion is, why are you going to minimize his role? I'm not minimizing his role. I'm putting him in right now the most important spot on the Celtics because the bench has been a problem.
Yeah.
And I'm sending Gordon to the starting lineup to fix Gordon Hayward, to help Kyrie get better looks, and to fix the bench, and to have him, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart out there offensively working together and defensively working together to slow down the guys who've been great off of the bench. So in the scrum earlier today, Brad Stevens was asked about tweaking the lineups.
Yep.
And the interesting thing he said was, if we do it, we would do it to fix the bench. Oh, hold on. Let's turn this camera around. Jay King, the kid. We're live. We're live, baby.
A little more live now that I'm around.
Yeah. So, I think. See, people
immediately people are commenting.
Well,
that
the
there's
kid.
no king.
Yeah. So I think that having Jaylen on the bench that kind of fix that problem.
Yeah.
I think that works. And like I said, Brad said if we tweak the lineup, it's to fix the bench.
Yeah.
And the bench has been a big talking point. So if the Celtics are going to win this game, they need to win those minutes. Stunningly, they have lost the minutes when Giannis has been on the bench.
Yeah.
That's one of the most stunning developments of this series to me, that Giannis goes to the bench and they can't take advantage of it.
Yeah, you can't do that against this team and expect to come out with a win because, he's the league's MVP for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens tonight. I kind of think that the season probably ends tonight, but
I wouldn't be
we'll
surprised.
see.
I wouldn't be surprised at anything at this point. That come out, get rolled, come out and roll them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really anything's on the table with these two, with these guys. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if we get to come back to beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a Game 7, which Tom does not want to do.
It has been cold. It has been rainy. The
I gotta
last
tell
time
you,
we were
it's been
here,
miserable.
it was snowy. Yeah, it's great spot to be. But we'll see what happens.
Okay, we'll see. So follow our stuff on masslive.com/Celtics. Tom_NBA on Twitter. RedsArmy_John.
Let's be honest, tough to play a team with both Giannis and George Hill.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's true. It's tough. All right, let's turn this camera around one more time and show you some of the warm-ups going on here before we sign off. There's Shemi Ojale and the Combat Muscles. Who else we got?
Got Jonathan Gibson over there.
Oh, yep. Whoops. There's Giannis down there going through his warm-ups. Giannis, who is like 90% leg. Like, seriously, his torso is the size of a normal. Like, his legs should end right where his compression pants end, yet there's like another 1.5 feet of human at the end of it. This is wild. So, all right, there's, whoops, that ball coming at us.
Lefty.
Yeah. All right, so that's it, everybody. Hopefully there's another one of these coming up after a game. Right, Tom?